Hi, Jim Melcher here for Desert Owl Media. I'm doing part 9 of my series on black and white development. This time I'm doing a follow-up on stop and fixer. In particular, first, I'd like to talk about fixer. I describe fixer as being, I think I said, exclusively a physical process. And I think we need to acknowledge that although most of the work of the fixer is done just by washing and diluting the developer that's still on the film, dots, drops on the film, there's some absorbed into the emulsion that needs to be counteracted as well. And that is a chemical process that is best considered accomplished by an acid. So typically they're recommending, I'm seeing recommendations of acetic acid as the additive to give the chemical effect to your fixer. So I have made an order on Freestyle for some acetic acid for my own process. I don't have anything to report, of course, because I haven't started doing that, but maybe I'll do a follow-up on that. The dilution is 2% acetic acid, and it's so dilute that you can just use it as a one shot, and dispose of it. Because you're not using very much of the product with each roll of film. You can extend it. I think there's measurements like maybe if you've got a quart or something that you can go 20 rolls. But now you got to keep track how many rolls. Or you can go ahead and buy indicator stop bath that probably it's 10 times more expensive, and that when it is exhausted, it changes color. But you got to know what the color is. Anyway, to me, that's a lot of extra bother. Even going to the acetic acid, I think, is a little overkill, because if you get your fixer in promptly, which I always do, the developer isn't acting in that emulsion long enough to exhaust itself, I shouldn't think. But that's the update for the most part on fixer. So I referred to this book, the Ansel Adams Guide, Book 1, Basic Techniques of Photography. That I looked at some other things, but that was my main resource for technical aspects of this update. And I was interested to answer the question when you can begin inspecting the film that you've got in a canister. Because I'll get to it, a failure with some development a couple weeks ago. And I was just curious as to when, I'd heard mention of how early you could be starting inspection. And it always sounded just a little like somebody said you can be inspecting after the stop bath, and I thought that sounded a little too early, and I think that's probably confirmed by this Ansel Adams book, which was authored, oddly enough, by John P. Schaefer. I won't say more about it, just that it's called the Ansel Adams Guide, but it's authored by John P. Schaefer, this volume 1. And on page 22 of the book, on page 206, he says that you can, but usually don't, look at the film between the stop and the fixer. So apparently the susceptibility to further exposure is greatly inhibited, let's go that way, by the stop already, making sure that developer has done its work and is neutralized. So that was a note. But on page 222, it says that after 2 minutes of fixing, you can always, at that point when you've been running the fixer for 2 minutes, you can always check to see how your film looks. I'm not recommending that, but I'm curious because with my failure, it had been a full 4 minutes and the film looked horrible. It had a milky purplish hue everywhere on the back side of the film, and on the front side, the emulsion side, you could just barely see the images there, but they were, wasn't in black and white. It was sort of in shades of this purplish. So, and I was wondering, am I going to have to try and scan these as images and then do some very weird color correction and reversal to see what I got? I was really worried about it. So I put out a quick message. I had the film drying in the basement looking just like that, just, horrible. And there were some really important images I really wanted. I didn't want to have to give up or do something extreme to try and recover what was there. So I put out a panic message on a couple Facebook forums and started to do some research, and very quickly I found that my problem was exhausted fixer. I was pretty sure that's what it was. I don't know how that happened, but that seemed clear. So I put the film back in the fixer. I put the film back on a reel and I put it in the tank. It had been exposed to light all this time. I didn't know whether that was going to be a problem. Although the images hadn't changed, that didn't seem like the light could be a problem. But it had been through the full process of washing with HypoClear and, with PhotoFlow, everything, I was concerned that this couldn't be recovered, but I put it back in fresh fixer and ran it for a full 4 minutes, and lo and behold, perfect. The images came out perfect. So on that point, I think my biggest message today is that when you see that you've underfixed, if you've gone at least 2 minutes, almost no matter what you've done afterwards with regard to wash and hypo and PhotoFlow, you can still refix that film and finish the job. I was overjoyed to see that because, well, as I said, there were some important images there that I really hoped I could keep. I don't expect anybody to have any questions, but if you have comments, this was something that I felt like maybe hadn't been dealt with in enough detail that it was really worth adding this at this time. And I'll also plan to add something after I've been using the acetic acid stop as well. So anyway, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you next time.